Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast as we are headed into our final segment of the day. And this one, a little bit more lighthearted because we are talking at the end of the day NBA preseason action. But overall, a very cool moment last night in the NBA where we saw the first ever father-son duo on an NBA court together, and that was with LeBron James and Bronny James both playing in this game. And just getting to see that sort of visual aspect of it, of course, I thought it was pretty funny. A lot of people on the internet joking about the fact that LeBron sort of ran up to stand next to Bronny to make sure that we got that shot of the two of them next to each other. But, you know, LeBron's going to get teased for just about anything he does on an NBA court. But genuinely a very, very cool moment to see. And you know, I think more than anything, it's a testament to LeBron James for the longevity that he's had throughout his career to be able to still be not just like kicking it on the bench of some NBA roster, but to actually still be one of the best players in the league and have his son playing along with him. Huge accomplishment for him as a basketball player and him as a dad. So, you know, that's the positive sort of spin on all of this, is as much as, you know, it's setting up Bronny James for, you know, some criticism. At the end of the day, we all, I think, understand how incredible of an accomplishment this is, even if there was definitely some nepotism at play, which is something that is, you know, a lot of people want to look down on the idea and scold anybody for even mentioning that. Nobody is denying that nepotism is a very real thing in not just sports, but in the entire world. But with quite how defensive people get, I think it's a little bit ridiculous. LeBron may have manufactured a way to get his son to him anyways, but either way, I mean, it's just a cool thing to see, and it'll be this fun little subplot along the way. But that being said, I do have some thoughts on just ultimately what this does look like from Bronny from here. We've now gotten to the point where LeBron's been talking about for years. He wants to be on the same team. He wants to play with Bronny specifically, is sort of what the vision has been. We're here. What are these next steps? And I think that it's really important for Bronny and LeBron to not get too, you know, up in arms or, you know, rising above this idea that Bronny is still a very raw NBA prospect, because we saw some struggles in Summer League. Really didn't look great in this game together. I mean, he recorded a couple rebounds, but outside of that, 4 turnovers in this game. He's not somebody who really can be trusted with the ball in his hands a lot. And to be fair, that's never who he has been, dating at least back to USC. I can't say I'm familiar with, you know, his tape from when he played in high school, but I watched the USC games, and he seemed like he needed to sort of take some steps. Specifically, the decisiveness with him is something that I really noticed at USC, where you can see he has basketball knowledge, but it's about having more confidence and taking those quick hit decisions. I feel like he was at USC. Weird situation where obviously the cardiac arrest situation at the end of the summer keeps him out for the first half of the season, that by the time he gets back there, it's a USC team that's already sort of trying to dig themselves out of a bad start to the year. Maybe a little bit of individual, you know, jockeying for positions and looks and stuff along those lines. I know they played better down the stretch of the season, but, you know, I just think it was a weird situation for Bronny there, and that's why I would have preferred to see him stay in college for another year, but ultimately, you make the NBA. If you have that opportunity, hard to pass up on that. But now it's this idea that, you know, Bronny, so this is what I have to do some more research on, is the idea of Bronny being fully receptive to playing in the G League, and that is a situation where they were able to get him in, you know, they gave him a contract that was fully guaranteed, and it wasn't a two-way deal, but I think that he needs to actually play in some of these G League games, and it sounds like he is open for that, and I think that that's the right way to go about it. We had some conversations in the production meeting here at the GSMC Sports Network, and this idea of, well, people are going to make fun of him if he plays in the G League. People are going to make fun of him if he's not good enough in these games. The reality of the situation is, if you're so worried about scrutiny, the NBA probably isn't for you. Because this is, I think, the league where, superstars and just players in general are scrutinized more than in any other league, really, across American sports. Maybe you want to throw quarterbacks in that position as well. But there's no pleasing the NBA community. It's just the reality of the situation. And Bronny, he might struggle at times. The reality is you're not going to step into the league and be a rotation player from day one as the 55th overall pick. And it's one of those situations where, a lot of people have said, oh, well, Bronny's so overly criticized. He's the 55th overall pick. There shouldn't be any expectations for him. Okay, he's the 55th overall pick. Let's start to treat him that way. And that's not, giving. It's to some degree. I mean, get your money. I don't have a problem with the fact that the Lakers paid fully guaranteed for Bronny James, but let's start to actually, treat him like that, where he spends some time in the G League to develop, and he sort of works his way up onto the, professional roster, or the, I don't know what the correct phrasing of that would be, but get him up to the actual Lakers. And I think that we can't put him in baby wrapping paper, or bubble wrap is really what I'm looking for here. It's not a way to actually develop somebody. Sometimes it's about getting thrown into the fire, and this fire that we're talking about is the G League. So I'm not really sure how he's supposed to get full game reps and get used to game speed. If it's not in the G League, and, in a situation where, he could potentially get exposed, that's just what professional sports is. So this idea that holding out with him and, protecting him, I think for his own good, he's got to start to, earn it himself. And I think that generally speaking here, sort of last thoughts on all of this, is the majority of, I think, rational NBA fans understand that this is not something that we don't need to really be caring all that much about Bronny James in terms of the analysis of his actual play. It'll be a fun subplot. It has very little significance on the upcoming 2024-25 season, and that's what the bigger deal is right now for the Lakers, being in a position where you don't... I know LeBron continues to prove the world wrong and all of that, but this is a situation where, you don't know how many years left you're going to have of LeBron. And last year, I don't think that anybody was satisfied with the results. Now, Lakers 0-2 in the preseason so far. I really couldn't care less about what your preseason record is. I mean, Celtics 2-0, but that's neither here nor there. It really doesn't matter. Just had to drop that in there since we're talking Lakers, obviously. But, I think that JJ Redick has done a lot of good things. I think in terms of, you see the interactions with him and his players, there seems to be very much a mutual understanding, this idea of how he handles the media. Is he a little bit short sometimes and, not embracive? Fine. But also, he doesn't really need to be. He is somebody that he very much is still doing a lot of proving to himself. I think that he's done some good things. You talk about, there have been at least like montages and such that I've seen about him trying to open up more shots for Rui Hachimura. Hasn't necessarily been burying them, but, you can see the pieces of the puzzle starting to come together there. I do still think that the Lakers roster is a little bit lackluster. Now, we'll see. D'Angelo Russell, he had a lot of positive things to say about JJ Redick early on. It seems like the locker room is all bought in there. We'll see how that translates once the actual season kicks off and you have the usual, Lakers media tour of everybody sort of giving their 2 cents on it. I'm going to be guilty of it myself as well, but, I'm not holding them to the expectation that this is a championship competing season for them. I mean, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world to me if it did, somehow piece itself together, but it's very, very little depth, I feel like, with this Lakers team right now. And, it would be really nice to see some of their younger players step up and, really develop for them, where you have Max Christie, who some people within the Lakers organization think is going to take a step forward. Dalton Connect, who I loved at Tennessee. Obviously, I think most people did that watched him, that I think he can be, a day one rotational player for them. Maybe you get Jalen Hood-Schifino to come around, and if not, at least getting them opportunities to at least play and maybe be trade candidates when, things come around there. We'll see. I think that the Lakers are pretty confidently, towards the bottom. Or I wouldn't say towards the bottom, but not at the top is more so what I should say, in that Western Conference, where it's going to be very contested at the top there. And I think that the Lakers are probably a class below the top four. I would consider the top four myself to be probably the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Thunder, maybe the Mavericks. I'm not as high on the Mavericks as other people are, but Mavericks are probably still better than the Lakers are. You got a lot of competitive teams in there, and I just feel like this is a situation where the Lakers, they've held on to some of these draft picks the past couple years. I understand they don't want to fully sell out if it's not a, true move to make them championship competitors. I think they got to be active on the phones this year is all. And I'm not saying you have to make some sort of blockbuster trade necessarily. I don't know. I guess when I look at that roster in terms of what do I want them to go get, I think that if you could work out some sort of a deal, I feel bad throwing D'Angelo Russell into trade conversations where he's been, for years now, but I do feel like you need an upgrade at point guard, and even not if that, LeBron can play the point for you. I think Austin Reeves can bring the ball up the court himself. I feel like just upgrading D'Angelo Russell into a better fifth starter there, I think, is probably the move. Austin Reeves, I suppose, is on the table, but I have a very hard time imagining that they part ways with him. And then I think they could really use a big as well. This is a team that, Anthony Davis for years has been talking about he doesn't want to play the 5. He kind of has to play the 5, and I agree with it based off of if you're not going to have the jumper, really hard to just because you don't feel like, banging in the paint quite as often, that just because of the physical toll. I understand protecting your stars, but it's a basketball problem. If Anthony Davis is the, a stretch type big for you, or, a 4, I think that's problematic unless you go get another center as well that can shoot. I don't know. Again, I think that there are a number of things the Lakers are just shortcoming in. I don't love their spacing. I don't love their size. I don't love their bench. So I'm not in on the Lakers for this upcoming season, but that being said, it's the Lakers. So they are going to be talked about. Some people still have expectations, especially with LeBron James. I guess we'll see how it all shakes out. But that is all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for tuning into the GSMC Sports Podcast. Thank you to the GSMC Sports Network for allowing us to host this show. Remember to like, follow, subscribe wherever you may be keeping up with us. Be sure to check us out on social media as well for more exclusive short content. And we will be back tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern, same time as always. We will see you then. Take care. Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. Nice.